We're waiting for one more person to jump in here for our best ball draft to start. Sounds like that has happened. Looks like we're pick number 5, so we're probably going to be hoping somebody gets saucy and doesn't take one of the big 4, but that is incredibly unlikely to happen. So, as you know, I'm writing a best ball blog for Big Dogs Gotta Eat Fantasy, BDGE, and if you guys like these best ball videos and you want to try it out yourself, feel free to jump on to draft.com, sign up, use promo code BDGE, and you will get a free $3 to draft with. So, chance to win some money for you. So, like I said, here we are praying that somebody gets cute in the top 5 and takes David Johnson, because he's like the only guy that really seems to hop up into there. I don't really see Melvin Gordon hop into there too much. And we will get one of the big 4. Boom. No such luck in the first 2 picks. Oh, we got lucky. All right, so we get Alvin Kamara at pick 5. I like it. Nice. So if you're watching this video on YouTube right now, and to let you know, in the description for this video, you will find a link, and the link is to the Deep Dive Stacking blog, which I've put up a day early. And I put it up so that you guys that checked out the YouTube video could have the information a day sooner than everybody else. So it takes a look at what stacking is, talks about the DFS stacking matrix, and how the points for certain positions, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and tight end match up. So this is like how many points they score per point scored by their quarterback. Tells you why we're using a DFS tactic in best ball. Yeah, that's kind of a long explanation. You can read it there. This is a graph here that's going to show you the percentage points that you gain on stacking. So an average team wins 8.3% of the time. You see with different stacks, you can actually raise your percentage quite a bit, and your cash percentage as well. So cashing, is 1 through 4 in a 12-man league, 1 through 3, I think, in a 10-man league, and winning is just first place. But some of these numbers are pretty big. Like, for example, quarterback, wide receiver, tight end 1 here getting an 11.98%. That's 3.68% better, which is a 44% difference. Now, some of these numbers are going to be skewed slightly because, there's some teams where you just never stacked this last year. So, the terrible stacks didn't show up at all. And then also, the Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey stack last year. If you got that, your percentages were, bonkers. So not every stack is created equal. That's kind of why we gets into who we should be stacking. Let's take a look back here at the draft. Let's see what we got going on. Nothing too crazy. Joe Mixon falling to 112 is nice for the 112. So this 1-9 here is the spot for Travis Kelce. I take him here quite a bit and in these spots, but I like to kind of cut him off right here. Because of all these guys that go behind him, I don't really care which one I get so much. I just want Kelce on one of all these people that go right behind him. So we'll get back to the article in a few after we make our next 2 selections. Maybe just our next 1 selection. So Todd Gurley falling to us again in this spot. My Gurley percentage is where I want it to be, so I'm not going to select him. Actually going to take Antonio Brown here just because I have a very low ownership on him compared to Mike Evans. And that's really the only reason. I prefer Mike Evans, but not by a ton, by a bit. So now that we have Antonio Brown there, we're not going to go out of our way to get Derek Carr. But what we want to do is, make a mental note that Derek Carr is somebody that we are more interested in than normal in his tier. So if we're choosing between, Derek Carr and Tom Brady, Derek Carr and Matt Stafford, Derek Carr and Sam Darnold, in all those cases, because we have Antonio Brown, we would rather have Derek Carr right now. Now that could change because we could pick up the number one target for one of those other players. Then you just go whichever one you feel is best. But we're making a mental note that Derek Carr is actually on our radar. Big Swole, probably pretty happy to get Todd Gurley at 2.9. I still think that there's just like way too much risk. And I'm trying to hang out at my 3% for Todd Gurley, but I'm not interested in getting any higher than that. So at 3%, the nice thing is like, I've got 20%-ish, I think it's 15 right now, Malcolm Brown, and I still have like 30-something percent Darrell Henderson. We're going to be taking a wide receiver with that pick here. So if everything goes wrong with Gurley and I like lose those 3%, that's fine because I'm taking people to the cleaners with my 20% Malcolm Brown and 33% ownership on Darrell Henderson. So 33%, you might say that's a really high number. I'm going to take Cooper here because the last draft I took Hilton, and actually Hilton and Antonio Brown the same bye week, so pure tiebreaker there. Like, I wouldn't really care about those two having the same bye week, but I could care less which one between Amari Cooper and T.Y. Hilton I ended up with. So nice tiebreaker there, plus the last draft I took T.Y. Hilton. So now we got Cooper, we've got Dak Prescott on our radar, right? So we can create a stack with Prescott and his number one wide receiver if we end up with him. So, getting back to this. Who should we stack? You want to stack the best targets with your QB. So the top two QBs last year were Mahomes and Matt Ryan, right? So you see for Mahomes, the best two guys to stack with him, obviously Tyreek Hill, who scored 0.68 per point that Mahomes scored, and Kelsey, who scored 0.58 points per point Mahomes scored. And for Matt Ryan, it was Julio at 0.60 and Calvin Ridley at 0.40. So the best stack for Matt Ryan was actually, QB, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and for Mahomes, it's QB, wide receiver 1, tight end. So when should we stack? We don't really want to be like breaking tiers to be doing the stacking, you know what I mean? You want to be taking your guys at value and keeping in mind, like, when I get to a tier and I'm making my choice between this bunch of quarterbacks where I don't really care which one I get, I want to take the one that correlates to, my wide receivers. Also, sometimes you're taking the wide receiver after the quarterback or the tight end after the quarterback, and you want to do the same thing. Look at who you got available. Now, an important thing to keep in mind when you're doing the stacking is you don't want to get too crazy about it, right? So the first two targets that you get for your quarterback are going to help you. They're going to raise your win percentage. However, if you go crazy and you start taking three guys that catch passes from that quarterback, it actually has a negative correlation. You do not want that. You want to be stacking to raise your percentage points of winning, not to lower them. Interesting. Philip Lindsay goes, this is a pretty tough choice right here between David Montgomery and Kenny Golladay, but I'm going to take David Montgomery. I want to get a second running back, and if he goes, I'm not going to feel too happy about who I end up with. And, I can end up with like Calvin Ridley or somebody like that, or Mike Williams that I feel just as comfortable as I do with Golladay. Chris Godwin also on that list. I know a lot of people are high on Robert Woods. I like Robert Woods. I'm not like crazy about him. He's like fine. If there's a guy that Cooper Kupp being back is going to affect, it's going to be Robert Woods more than it's going to be Brandon Cooks. Tyreek Hill at 4.9, too early for me. He's a guy I'm keeping 3% ownership of. I've been able to get that 3% in round 6, like late round 6 a lot. So I'm not looking to push anymore. I have no clue what's going to happen with that suspension. It could be 2 games, could be 10 games. I have no idea. So I'm just trying to keep enough of him that if things break his way, it doesn't devastate me. So yeah, if you want to go read that whole article on Big Dogs, the link will be available. All right, let's see what we got going on here. So yeah, that's one thing I'm going to stress to you one more time is at most you want 2 targets for your quarterback. You don't want to get into 3 and start lowering your percentage. You'll be undoing all the work that you've done to get your stacks going. Calvin Ridley goes. That's kind of a bummer. It's definitely the guy I was looking for there the most. People I am interested in at this moment: Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, and I have them quite a bit ahead of everyone else in this group. If they both go, we are going to have some difficult decisions to make on our hands. Okay. Now I will not have a difficult decision. If both are there, I'm going to take Chris Godwin this time, but it's only because my Mike Williams ownership percentage is starting to get out of hand. Starting to get up near 30%. So I'd like to pull that down. About the most I like to have somebody by the time the season starts is 20%. But you don't want to be too worried about that this early. If you think a guy is a great value, just keep pounding and pounding that value. All right. Evan Ingram, huh? So we're going to take Godwin this time. If this is like your first draft, I would take Mike Williams over Godwin. Just an ownership percentage decision this time for me. So yeah, you don't want to be too concerned about your ownership percentages this early in the year. And also if you're doing 10 of these, if it's your plan, or if you're just planning to spend your $3, don't worry about ownership percentages at all. If you're starting to do 50 of these, you want to start thinking about your ownership percentages. I'm going to have about 400 of these, at least 300. So I need to be very aware of my ownership percentages. So I don't want to have a crazy amount of somebody and they get hurt and then tons of your teams are suffering for it. So that's not something, even if you are, say, a person that's going to do 300 of these or 400 of these, or even 100 of these, it's not something you want to be super concerned about in the start of your draft, right? Back when Darrell Henderson was going in round 9 and then round 8 and then round 7, and now he's in round 6 and sometimes round 5. But back when he was in 9 and 8, he didn't get past me. I took him every single draft. So I'm probably one of the people that's the reason why his ADP is where it is now. But yeah, I just kept smashing him. And so I got up to 57% ownership, right? But I wasn't really concerned about this because, it's really easy to get your guys' ownership down. All you have to do is not pick them, and their ownership starts to go down. If there's somebody and you want them, you want to raise your ownership, it can become a battle. I've been trying to raise my ownership on Damian Harris, and he pretty much doesn't get by me in round 10. But that's becoming a fight, and some people are jumping up to round 8, which I'm not willing to do, to grab him. And another guy is Rashad Penny. He used to go round 7, and now I'm targeting him in round 6 of every single draft I can get him, but I just can never get him in round 6. It feels like. Wow, it's really good value to S Maxwell getting Mike Williams in round 6. Love it for him. So I don't imagine that Darrell Henderson is the highest scurvy, so it's not okay. Boom, boom. Well, we're gonna it's so brutal. Just every time. They just cannot get another share of Penny. Alright, I'm going to grab a share of Aaron Rodgers, who's a guy I don't own as much of as I would like. I really like the tier 1 quarterbacks in round 6 and 7, late round 6, early round 7. I actually like Deshaun Watson a bit more than Aaron Rodgers, but I also own more Deshaun Watson than I do Aaron Rodgers, so just going to look to grab up an Aaron Rodgers share there. So we'd like to, if we can, get MVS or Allison on our team, but we don't need to reach to do that. If it happens, it happens. So this could be quite a situation here. I'm kind of hoping someone takes Latavius Murray so that I don't have to. So I don't love having Latavius Murray and Alvin Kamara on the same team. That's McDonald. That's 6. So another thing I wanted to talk to you guys a bit about is I followed Davis Maddock. That's kind of how I got into doing more best ball, and he was one of the only people writing about best ball before I started writing about it. I mean, there's some other people that do too, but his stuff was mainly the stuff that I followed. And anyway, he was saying how like all the tight ends after the big three get drafted too early. Like that whole next grouping goes too early, especially in best ball. Like you're just not getting the value with those picks. You're better off trying to like piece together some sort of conglomeration of late tight ends. Just writing down my bye weeks here. Of late tight ends with high upside and like fight that way, as opposed to like overpaying in round 5 for an Evan Ingram. It's just not going to do what you want to do. That said, if Jared Cook falls to us here, he will definitely be a consideration. Really nice pick by Life, getting the last of the tier 1 QBs in my mind. Sean Watson's actually my number 1 best ball quarterback, but wanted to get me a share of Mr. Aaron Rodgers. So here, it's going to be kind of a tough choice if I'm forced to choose between Jared Cook and Latavius Murray. If one goes, I'll probably just take the other. Jalen Samuels in round 7 would be a big no for me. I don't really see much difference between Jared Cook and like Njoku, and I expect to be able to get Njoku the next round. So, as much as I don't want to do it, I'm going to do it and have Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray both on my team. So the reason why I don't love that is like having Kamara having both capture upside. So like the nut thing that can happen if you have Latavius Murray is for Kamara to get hurt, and now Kamara getting hurt is actually bad for my team. But at the same time, I just like Latavius Murray's standalone value at that point better than all the other people I can take. So kind of sucks. So we're kind of playing with fire a bit on like gambling that we can get Njoku in the next round. We might not be able to, but that's fine. I just like don't really care about if I get him or not that much. And like same with Jared Cook. I just don't think Jared Cook's like good enough to start giving you top 3 or 4 tight end weeks, which is like what you need to have if you want to be winning at that position. So I'd rather go with some combination of like Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews, and Darren Waller or something like that. Have those 3 my tight ends instead of like using an early pick on Jared Cook and maybe going with 2 tight ends. So if I don't get a tight end from basically the Njoku tier, like any Njoku or anyone better than him, anyone with a higher ADP than him, if I don't get any of those guys, then I pretty much always go 3 tight end. And being that we used early draft capital on a tier 1 quarterback, we're probably going to go 3 tight end anyway. So, guys that we would not mind taking at our next pick. Either of these top 2 running backs on the board would be fine. Njoku obviously would be fine. It'd be interesting if I'm choosing between one of them and him at this next pick. Also would like to get Geronimo Allison, but I think the only way we're picking Geronimo Allison is if Njoku and Miles Sanders go before us. Ooh. All right. This is just like too much value being able to close out a tier now that we're in round 8. Remember, we considered it the round before, and we were like, nah. Well, we didn't consider Njoku, but we considered Jared Cook, who I consider to be on the same level as Njoku. So pretty much we got a player equal to the player there, whereas I would much rather have Latavius Murray than Miles Sanders. Sanders has got some injury problems going on right now, and we don't know what the split will be like in Philly, and I'm just super comfortable with Latavius Murray being a guy you can use. Not that you're making those choices, but a guy that can always be in your lineup. So we didn't get Allison, that's all right. So our last chance to stack is pretty much MVS. I don't think anybody else really has value. past that on the Green Bay. So eventually, I think about a month from now, I'm going to have an article that comes out that is going to break down every team and like the order in which it's important to stack their dudes. So it'll basically be like a flow chart of the quarterback and then their targets that matter. And when you see that chart, you're going to see some teams not show up on it at all because their quarterback is going in round like the last round or so. And if their quarterback's going in the last round, then obviously you can't really think about stacking them. It's too late to do anything at that point. But so like you're not going to see the Giants on there at all. You're not going to see Washington on there at all, and you're not going to see Miami on there at all. I think that's it. So here, obviously, we would be very happy to get Miles Sanders. Curtis Samuel would be fantastic. Wow. That is some good value. Like this is 2 rounds in a row. We've basically got the player that we consider taking the pick for. Love Curtis Samuel a lot, but snatching me up another running back. My Curtis Samuel ownership starting to get a little out of control as well. I'm sure Cool Kid was not sad to see us take Matt Sanders so he could grab Curtis Samuel. All right. So yeah, we kind of want to grab Marquez Valdes-Scantling if we can. We also want to keep in mind that to grab our second quarterback, the guys we are the most interested in as our second quarterback are, probably Dak, then Derek Carr. Well, it would be Dak, then Jameis Winston, then Derek Carr, because Jameis Winston's like a whole tier above, or 2 tiers above Derek Carr. But I have Dak and Winston in the same tier, so our ideal second quarterback in the situation behind Aaron Rodgers would be Dak. So when we got back to us, we were going to definitely be considering taking Damian Harris. He went off the board, so that's fine. Right now we've got 1 tight end, 1 QB, 4 running backs, 3 wide receivers. In my very first article, which is the Best Ball Primer, check that out, and you will see that the percentages show that it is a huge advantage to take 6 running backs and 7 wide receivers exactly. If you do it every single time, you will grind out a percentage advantage over your opponents. And it's like a pretty decent percentage. So if you just keep hammering it, you don't stray, that is something that you can grind out percentage points. Because let's not forget, you're trying to beat a 10% rate at this game. So, how come from the poker world where these are things to think about. And that's the only way to beat rake is, to find a baseline way to grind out percentage points against your opponents. Then every other advantage you have is bonus. So we'll certainly be looking at Marquez Valdes-Scantling if he's on the board when we pick. He's a guy I don't have a ton of ownership with, would like to get a share with to go with Mr. Aaron Rodgers. If he gets taken, is it a big deal? No. The only guy that I have a full tier above him that's on the board right now is Deshaun Jackson. Maybe Golden Tate should be too. Kind of interesting if it gets to our pick. And both are on the board. Ooh. I would like to say thank you, sir. Thank you for taking Deshaun Jackson, because I don't think I could have taken Valdes-Scantling over him. I would have had to just take Jackson. I have him a tier above Valdes-Scantling, and I would have just hurt too much to pass Jackson there. Jackson, could not be as good as we think, too, but I'm into it. I'm into Deshaun Jackson back in Philly. I like Carson Wentz a lot this year. So, I think most of the time you're going to be kind of drawn to take 3 tight ends over 3 quarterbacks because tight ends tend to suffer more injuries, right? But quarterback, let's not forget, is like much more valuable. It's the highest scoring position, and tight end is pretty much the lowest scoring position. So you should really kind of try to have a balance, like about the same amount of teams that have 3 quarterbacks and about the same amount of teams that have 3 tight ends. So Ito Smith is dead to us because we already have 2 week 9 bye weeks, so we're not interested in that. Dak Prescott doesn't go here. That's who we're going to pick. Go with our Amari Cooper, and we can be all done with quarterbacks and wash our hands of that. So let's do that. I've got Dak paired up with Amari Cooper, and we've got Dak and Aaron Rodgers as our quarterbacks. We can just go bloop. Whoops, that's the opposite of what we wanted to do. Get out of here. So we don't need to look at quarterbacks anymore in this draft. We're done. So in this draft, we'll definitely be going 3 tight ends. So getting back to what I was saying before. So the spots where I look to take 3 quarterbacks are when I'm taking like a bunch of the running quarterbacks because they, obviously get injured more easily. So if like my first quarterback is Kyler Murray, and I'm probably going to start trying to look towards taking 3 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. And when I do that, I tend to like try to take the tight ends that are a little like safer as far as injury goes. Like I'm taking more shares of Mark Andrews there because he's like young. And he has decent upside and he has no injury risks at the moment. Just looking for like safer guys. Like a Kyle Rudolph is a safer guy that I like having as my second tight end if I'm only taking 2. Trey Burton is like a guy I like because of the upside, but we'll start to get a little squeamish. Delaney Walker is a guy I'm not taking if I'm taking 2 tight ends because he's not even doing stuff yet. I do think he'll be back soon, though. So if it gets to us here, we're not letting Dallas Goedert go by us in round 12. Like, generally, I'm trying to grab him around round 10. But right now on our radar is Dallas Goedert, Justice Hill, and Anthony Miller. I like to see a little John Brown action there. This is a guy I own like a lot of. You can often get John Brown, like he just keeps falling and falling. You can get him around 14 a lot. Let's take a look back at our team again here. We got Kamara, Montgomery, Latavius Murray, and Sanders. There goes Goedert. Good pick by Scurvy. I have Scurvy in like a million of my drafts, so I assume that he's a pretty good player. I'm going to take Justice Hill here. This is the guy that I could end up with 30% of by the time the season starts, and I'm just going to have to not have a problem with that. At least it's not one of like the guys I'm drafting in the early rounds, That's why maybe Mike Williams 30% worries me a little bit more than Justice Hill 30%. Right now it's looking like both of those things could happen. But like just Justice Hill value in round 12 is awesome. This is a guy that like I wouldn't be surprised if during the preseason you see him play some and he starts moving up and up and up and up, probably all the way into round like 8 or something. So a very, very, very loose correlation we can look for here is to snatch up a Jimmy Graham to go with our Aaron Rodgers, but that's not something I'm too interested in. I just don't really think he's that good. I think his days are numbered. His days are behind him. There's Jack Doyle. Devin Singletary. What level of interest do I have in getting a Jack Doyle share? I have some. Kind of like Matt Breida here too. I'm gonna grab a Jack Doyle. He's a guy I have like pretty he'll be like fine, and then if something happens to Ebron, he can be pretty good. He could get better than fine. So one thing I don't like about Jack Doyle is he blocks you off from getting Darren Waller shares into the same bye week, and I will only own one tight end with a certain bye week, and I will only own one quarterback with a certain bye week. At most, I will own 2 running backs with the same bye week, and at most, I will own 2 wide receivers with the same bye week. This matters because during the course of the season, if you have just a disastrous week, you can lose 100 points to somebody in a week. So somebody can jump you by 100 points if your team completely poops the bed due to a bunch of bye weeks and injury problems, and you just don't want that happening. It's insane that all the value in this draft pretty much has come to us at running back, because it just doesn't happen ever. It's always all the value comes at wide receiver. It's pretty hard to pass Devin Singletary if it was their only pick. I like Singletary and Madison. I like the upside of Noah Fant, even though he's a rookie tight end. I think he could have one of the best rookie tight end seasons we've seen. Just a combination of Flacco loving the tight end, him doing what he does, the fact that he can't really block. Pretty comfortable with our running back situation at the moment. But, hitting a home run at running back is a glorious, glorious thing. And to be honest, there's a guy I like much better than Noah Fant that you can just get in the last round. I feel it's similarly productive. So I'm gonna have a decision if Kenny Stills is still there, because I think he's the best wide receiver on the board by a good amount. I really like the late wide receiver values. All right, well, we're gonna grab Devin Singletary here over Kenny Stills. We'll let the Kenny Stills value get by us. So now we're not looking at any more running backs either. We're down to 1 tight end and 3 wide receivers to take. So we'll start hammering these wide receivers soon. There's a bunch of dudes I like here at wide receiver. Obviously, if Marquise Brown were to somehow be able to get through the season healthy, he would be absolutely fantastic. Odds of that happening are very, very slim coming back from a loose bronch injury. Debo, love. Robert Foster, I like. Albert Wilson, I like. David Moore, I like. And then there's tons of flyers that don't even get drafted a lot of the times, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Jalen Hurd, I like a lot. DJ Chark's a guy I'm looking to grab a couple more shares of. So I could presumably take a tight end with my next pick and then just go straight 3 receivers. I don't think I'm going to do that though. Well, I was going to take Debo there. So now that we've got that. My very last tight end I really like is Will Dissly. But I was trying to get a little higher ownership on him, and he's got his injury concerns. Not that Tyler Eifert doesn't, but I have tons less Tyler Eifert. So Eifert's still got a ton of upside for the 4 games that he plays before he gets hurt. So we'll grab up Mr. Eifert. So now we're just going to go 3 wide receivers. We've got nothing else really left to pick. Our wide receiver group, I imagine we're going to look at the end of this draft, and we're not going to be very thrilled with. But, pretty happy with our tight ends having Njoku, Doyle, and Eifert. Very happy with our quarterbacks, and I'm very happy with our running backs. So if you've got to have a position that you're not as thrilled with, I mean, it's not like our wide receiver situation is bad or anything. We have Antonio Brown, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, and Valdez Scantling. So I think this will probably be one of our most balanced teams. So who are we hoping makes it to us for our next pick? I would really like to get David Moore. Obviously Albert Wilson, who I have a ton of shares of. But okay, so Ricky Seals-Jones. Let's talk about this guy for a second because he's on my do not draft list. I see other people drafting him, and I've had discussions with a couple people that really like him, and I just don't see it. So the air raid offense is a 4 wide receiver offense that has 2 slot receivers. It doesn't put a tight end on the field much. So you got your 5 offensive linemen, right? Your 4 wide receivers, your running back, and your quarterback. Those 11 players. The offensive linemen play more spread out, and their goal isn't really to like pancake block people like typical offensive linemen would in like a run first scheme, but like 65%, 65 to 75% of the plays out of the air raid will be running plays. And the purpose of the offensive linemen and why they're more spread out instead of like pancake blocking and holding people up is just to create running lanes where the defensive rushers have to go further to get to the quarterback. Okay, we're going to take David Moore here. And that gives a quarterback like Kyler Murray a ton of time to either escape or like make a quick hit pass. So that's what they're trying to do with their offense. So I don't think that Ricky Seals-Jones is going to be on the field much at all. But just taking a note, we now have 2 week 11 by wide receivers in David Moore and Valdes-Scantling. So anyone else that's week 11, like an A.J. Brown that we would definitely be interested in later, we're going to hack off the list. So Adam Humphries doesn't exist to us. A.J. Brown doesn't exist to us. Going to have a tough go of it at the end of this wide receivers picking, but I mean, that's what happens when you're stuck picking a position 3 times in the last 3 rounds. I think given a little more time to think about it, I would have taken Marquise Brown with that last pick. Jake Kumaro. Not into it. See if Big Swole crushes us and takes Marquise Brown. Nah, I'm going to gamble on him. Don't do it, Big Swole. Looks like he might be timing out, so he is probably taking Marquise Brown. Ooh, a little Hollywood action. Looks like he was actually looking for Josh Gordon, that's why. Alright, that's a nice pickup there. Nice upside. I mean, the Lisfranc injury is real, and we just don't know how it's going to happen at this point. You got to start gambling on people that have that kind of upside. So basically, week 8 and week 11 now we have 2 guys with the same bye week. So those weeks are dead to us. So because I took Marquise Brown the last pick and David Moore the pick before, who's also not that safe, but both guys have like tremendous upside, I'm going to look to like have my last wide receiver be like somebody that's boring as shit. Because I just want like a guy that I know is involved in the offense right away. So we're going to look to be snatching up somebody pretty boring in the last round. So it won't be Randall Cobb because we're 2 bye week 8s. It's not going to be a guy like John Ross because that guy's not safe. I feel like A.J. Brown is safe even though he's a rookie because I think he has a defined role, but he is by week 11, so it's not going to be him. So I think who we're going to be looking at trying to grab is someone like a Trey Quinn or Ted Ginn Jr. And of the 2, I think Ted Ginn Jr. is safer. We could also take a flyer on Demarcus Robinson, which would like definitely be the choice I would take over Ted Ginn if it wasn't for the makeup of already having Hollywood Brown and David Moore, and even to some degree Valdes-Scantling has some risk to him. So I'm just gonna take boring ass Ted Ginn here if he's available on my pick. If he gets sniped, then we'll make up a different plan. probably be Marquise Lee or Trey Quinn. I think Marquise Lee is the safer of those two guys because, like, even though he's dealing with an injury, just because the injury is the risk, not the role. I don't think there's much risk in Trey Quinn's role either, though, but he gets hurt a lot as well. Regardless, we're just kind of hoping no one takes Ted Ginn because he's like the only guy left on the board that I feel is a completely safe guy. People I would rather have than Ted Ginn in a vacuum: Demarcus Robinson, A.J. Brown, John Ross, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. But, you got to look at the situation of your team and make the best choice based on your roster makeup. The best choice, I think, for our roster makeup is to take Mr. Ted Ginn Jr. So if anybody wants their teams looked at, you can follow me on Twitter, SRMullen1979, and send me some screenshots of your rosters if you want any advice. And I'll let you know what I think. Mostly about roster construction. I'm not really here to criticize everybody's, which guys you pick, but if you're picking too many people with the same bye weeks, or you're not picking the right amount of wide receivers and running backs, I can point that stuff out to you. I might be able to pick out a guy or two, or maybe you could have taken a similar ADP stack option. So feel free to do that if you wish. And we're going to take a look at our team before we end the video. Taking a screenshot right now for Twitter and Instagram. I also have an Instagram going. It's Draft Best Balling. So if you want to follow that Instagram, it is going to have a screenshot of pretty much every roster I draft for the rest of the summer. I might leave some 10-team leagues off of there. It's I don't know, everyone's team is just ridiculous in 10-team leagues, and it seems kind of pointless. I like this Finkel is Einhorn getting Mr. Marcus Mariota with the second to last pick. Don't love Mariota, but I do really like him compared to the other quarterbacks that you get in the last 2 rounds. He's had stud weeks in his career. Scurvy taking a Pollard. Like that pick. Alright, so let's take a look at our team before we move on and close up this video. So at QB, we have Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott. That is a great upside. That is high floor. It's, one of the better tandems that you could possibly get. At running back, we've got Alvin Kamara, David Montgomery, Latavius Murray, Miles Sanders, Justice Hill, and Devin Singletary. So we have 3 rookies, which is interesting. Sorry, we have 4 rookies. But, that's not something you should be too concerned about in going into the season, because every single year, we saw it last year, that's where the value comes at running back, is rookies. We saw Tariq Cohen's rookie year when, I was telling all of my friends, and we'll attest to it, take Tariq Cohen with your last pick if you're in any sort of PPR league. I feel similarly about Justice Hill this year. Devin Singletary's got an opportunity. Miles Sanders is at some point going to have an opportunity in Philly, though it probably isn't going to be immediately to make an impact. So yeah, the one gripe I have about the running back is that we ended up with both Kamara and Murray, which caps Murray's upside. Looking back, I don't really remember a guy on the board that I could have taken that would have been better. I could have taken Darius Geis, but I just feel like there's too much downside there. I just want Latavius Murray's floor over Darius Geis' floor. Maybe that's a mistake in this situation where you have Kamara. So let me know if you think that is a mistake, and if I should take Geis over Latavius Murray in that spot. Okay, moving on to wide receiver, we've got Antonio Brown, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, which is boom. That's an amazing top of our wide receiver core. Interestingly enough, if we had taken Mike Evans over Antonio Brown, we'd probably end up with an entirely different team makeup, right? So if I would have taken Mike Evans instead of Antonio Brown, I still would have taken Godwin where I took him, because I was just looking to get more Godwin shares instead of Mike Williams. But I wouldn't have taken Aaron Rodgers where I took him. The reason for that is because, I might have still. I probably would have taken Aaron Rodgers, and I probably would have taken Jameis Winston a round earlier than I took Dak Prescott. So, maybe we wouldn't have Valdez scaling then. I'm pretty happy with the way things worked out. Because if I had Evans and Godwin, then like Winston would been really really high on my radar having his top 2 targets. Because like when I make the flow chart, just a sneak peek for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's going to be Mike Evans, then Chris Godwin, then OJ Howard, and probably nobody else will show up on that flow chart for this year. I realize Perryman could go into the Deshaun Jackson role. I realize Justin Watson could go into the Adam Humphries role. I don't know any of these things, and I don't feel strongly enough about those players to include them on the flow chart for stacking. Because like once your player gets down to a correlation, you know how if you see on the graph there, or whatever you call it that I put up there, that Austin Hooper was at 0.25 points per quarterback point. Once you get below that, there really is like that correlation is so weak. Like 0.25 is probably the lowest point where you care. All right. So, yeah, the bottom end of our wide receiver group is going to need some things to go right, but things could certainly go right. I think David Moore could have a very good season. Marquise Brown, all he needs to do is be able to come back from the list sprung, which we don't know yet still, but if he can, he's going to be really good. Ted Ginn is like as vanilla and blah pick as you can get, but sometimes you need 7 points, and he's going to get you your 7 points most weeks. He'll have his like 4 catches for 50 yards or whatever. And then at tight end is definitely our weakest position, but there's nothing wrong with having tight end be your weakest position. That's kind of what you want if you're not getting one of the big 3. So we got Njoku, Jack Doyle, and Eifert. Jack Doyle could have like a serious bounce back if something were to happen to Ebron. He's going to have a bounce back just by being healthy. If he can stay healthy, he's at least going to be useful. And Tyler Eifert's a complete crapshoot. He just gets hurt a ton. Would I feel a lot better about my team if I took a wide receiver where I took Eifert and Will Dissly in the last round? That is the question. The answer is most certainly yes. So that was a mistake that I made in this draft when I decided to take Tyler Eifert. It was a little bit based on ownership, so I can't like be too hard on myself about it just because I was like, I'm starting to get up near like 17% of Will Dissly, and that's too high. I'd want him down around 12 to 15%. And my Eifert percentage is something like, it might even be below 3% right now. It's probably 2, 3, 4%. So being that I made the decision based on that, I'm not going to be too hard on myself about it. All right, that'll call an end to this video. And maybe I'll make another one of these next week or so.